enough is enough. I don't want to die.
Doctors told Crystal to lose weight or lose her life. The Greensboro mother immediately heard that and started making changes. The first change, cutting out soda completely. In this month's Cone Health To Your Wellbeing Report, WFMY News 2's Tracy McCain takes a closer look at sugar, its potentially damaging impact on the body, and the safe way to get your sugar fix in check.
Doctors gave Crystal Avinger a choice.
It's crazy to not know what's happening inside of you until a doctor tells you, like, you're almost on the brink of death. And I wasn't even maybe 31 at the time.
Avinger was 30, 307 pounds, pregnant, battling congenital heart failure and type 2 diabetes.
At one time, they told me my baby could come out stillborn because of all the medicine. So I was in a really crazy place mentally because I was afraid of losing my baby.
Her baby was born healthy, but Avinger's own medical battle was putting her life in jeopardy.
So I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, for ICU after having the baby with all the health issues.
When she came out of her medically induced coma, Avinger finally decided,
enough is enough. I don't want to die.
She had the motivation she needed.
I had to lose the weight because I had 2 children here that really needed me. My mom died when I was 17 from heart failure and asthma. I couldn't let that be me. So then I started eating more fruit, eating more vegetables, no rice, no pasta. And even if I had a sandwich, I would make it wheat bread.
Notice the color in all of her plate pics. Avinger following the low sugar plan set out by her doctors and dietitians.
A healthy, balanced meal is going to be very colorful because it's going to contain a variety of foods from different food groups. And that variety is really what helps ensure that we're getting the nutrition that we need.
Kate Watts is a registered dietitian with Cone Health. She said anyone aiming for a healthy lifestyle should use the portion plate as a guide.
It is split into 3 different categories, really encouraging us to fill up half of our plate with those colorful fruits and vegetables that provide a lot of nutrition, and then splitting the other half of our plate for our grains and our meats and proteins.
Whole grains are high in fiber, great for heart health, the digestive system, and managing blood sugar. But the road to better health doesn't apply to only what's on your plate. You should watch what's going in your cup, too.
In the United States, about 35% of the added sugars that we consume comes from sugary beverages. So things like soda and our sweetened coffee treats, our teas, especially here in the South, we like our sweet tea. A really good first step for a lot of people is to look at what they're drinking.
Is that enough to really see change, or do you have to take it a step further?
Drinking just 1 12-ounce soda each day increases your risk of dying from heart disease by almost 1/3.
Cutting out soda eliminates a huge health risk.
Any small steps that you can take to decreasing that added sugar intake is going to help.
Avinger is grateful to be alive.
You have to want it. You have to say, enough is enough. I don't want to die. I want to be healthy. I want to walk up steps and not feel tired.
She cut out sugar, added in exercise, stayed away from processed foods, and dropped 140 pounds.
I weigh now 167. It was a slow process, but before I knew it, the weight was just falling off.
Avinger says it's all about making good decisions every day.
To make right choices. Making the best choices that you can, one good choice after the next, is going to get you where you belong.
All right, so Avinger made that change. How about us making that change? To help us with making those changes and those switches, we have Cone Health dietitian Kate Watts here with us today, and she's talking about why the move is so impactful and how we can all do it. All right, so we just saw you in the story there. Let's kind of dig into this a little bit more. How does sugar impact a person's health?
So sugar itself is actually a great source of energy for our bodies, so it's no surprise that we crave it. However, it is the type of sugar and how much sugar we consume that really can have a problem for our health. So there's a big difference in natural sugars, which is what we find in fruit and dairy products like milk, versus those added sugars in sodas and sports drinks and packaged foods. And those added sugars are just that. It is sugar that is added to our foods during processing by the food company, and it's to make those products sweeter. So the food industry, they love to use sugar as an ingredient. It is cheap and people love it. And so we get hooked and we buy more and more. Too much added sugar over time can increase our risk of serious diseases like high blood pressure and heart disease, diabetes, and liver disease.
Yeah, and it's in so much stuff, even like your tomato sauce or your ketchup or whatever it is. So how do you help us make that switch to look differently and to choose differently?
Well, there's a couple tips that I would recommend, and one is really just starting to become aware of which food and drink items you're getting the most sugar from. So some people decide to keep a food journal, which is just a log of everything you eat and drink throughout the day, and then they can look back at it and see, okay, how many desserts am I having in the week? How many sugary drinks am I having each day? And it really helps them identify which foods they want to start maybe limiting or substituting with something else. Now, in America, 35% of the added sugars we consume come from sugary beverages like sodas and sweetened coffee drinks, sweet tea, and sports drinks. So definitely starting with making a shift in beverages is a great place to start. And again, taking that really gradually, you may look at how many sweet drinks you're consuming now, and then making a realistic change and over time decreasing that more and more. Or you could even look at, okay, I make my own sweet tea at home. Let me work on gradually reducing the amount of sugar that I'm using to make that batch of tea. Another important tip is just in general to really try to choose more wholesome natural foods over packaged processed foods that are going to have those added sugars in them. And if you are consuming packaged foods, go ahead and look at that nutrition label. So reading nutrition labels, which are going to be on every packaged food item, you can look for the amount of added sugars, which will be listed in grams per serving. Now, the American Heart Association gives us some recommendations to know how many added sugars to aim for each day. And for women and kids, that is a limit of 25 grams of added sugar per day or less, which is about 6 teaspoons. And for men, they recommend limiting added sugars to 36 grams per day or less, which is about 9 teaspoons.
Okay, and you can get that in just one soda, much less, and that's your entire day. Okay, we're going to talk about what kinds of substitutions do you recommend when you still have those cravings and stuff. We're going to talk about that when we come back after the break. We're back with Kate Watts, a registered dietitian at Cone Health. She's talking about healthy eating, cutting back on the sugar. What do you do if everyone in the household is not ready to commit to making this kind of switch? You know, family members have different ideas for meals and snacks and things like that.
Well, it definitely does help to make changes together as a family. So having a conversation with other members in your household, letting them know why this is important to you and what they can do to support you. If you have family members that are bringing sugary drinks and foods into the house, or they're upset when you don't bring them home from the grocery store, just having a conversation about how that temptation is really difficult, and maybe seeing if they would consider keeping those items in a separate cupboard or drawer, somewhere more out of sight and less convenient, may be a good compromise.
All right, I don't want us to forget that question of substitution. All right, so how do we substitute when we really are craving something sweet?
Well, let's start with drinks. Considering that a 20-ounce soda contains almost double the daily recommended limit of added sugar, we know that making changes there can have a big impact on your health. And so really thinking about what is it that's driving you to reach for those sodas to begin with. And so for some people, that's just their thirst. So it helps just to have the best choice, which is water, available nearby at all times. Carrying a water bottle so that when that thirst hits, you have an easy option instead of having to go to the vending machine and being tempted to purchase a soda or a sports drink. Other substitutions for drinks include carbonated flavored water. So if you really like the fizz, you can still get your carbonation. If you're looking for caffeine, some unsweetened options include coffee, where you can then control how much sugar you're adding to it, as well as hot herbal teas or iced green teas. Looking for products that may still have some added sugar, but will be significantly less than those other caffeinated soda options. We also get a lot of questions around artificial sweeteners, diet sodas, zero sport drinks as a substitution. And they can definitely be used as a tool to help you get away from those more sugary drinks. They do have their benefits. They don't spike blood sugar, and they also are going to help with, like reduce cavities, but they have other health concerns. So we want to also treat them as something to consume in moderation, with that ultimate goal of getting to more natural choices like water and other unsweetened drinks.
All right, so what about if we're trying to make the switch and we get way off track like one weekend and we feel discouraged and we feel like we can't do it? What's the advice there?
Well, habit change is hard and it takes time, so it's going to come with its fair share of setbacks and what we may even consider mistakes. So really looking at those setbacks as an opportunity to get really curious about what you might do differently in that situation, should you be in that difficult, temptation again. One of the first things to do is really just ask what got you off track. And so for some people that is, a vacation or a holiday, or maybe it's your schedule changed, or maybe you haven't gotten enough sleep, so your willpower hasn't been as strong, or maybe you've had more stress, and so you've been stress eating. And so looking at what caused you to get off track, so you can make a plan and really visualize through what you would do differently in the future. And then, if you're getting discouraged, just really trying to remind yourself of the small successes that you've already had, and just trying to really stay positive and avoid those negative thoughts.
All right, little bit by little bit, you make that change. And she says gradual. It's okay. You don't have to cold turkey everything. You can gradually make this change for the better. Thank you so much for your information. We have Crystal's story along with all of these resources that we just talked to Kate Watts about, our dietitian, on the website. Take a look. It's in the To Your Wellbeing section.